Right. In this video, I want to talk about a few ways that nature is making you ugly and killing you faster. I have this example here because if you think about it, if Goatus was 100% natural, with his natural hairline, etc., he would be pretty ugly. The reason he looks decent now is because he got a hair transplant or whatever he got. So in this case, for example, being unnatural is actually better. And when I say unnatural, I don't necessarily mean taking steroids. So yeah, in this case, an unnatural procedure was a net positive for him. And it's kind of funny that he got bald while eating raw meat. He has been eating that way for over a decade, but his fans are still claiming that it was something else. It's kind of funny. But yeah, in this case, being a natural mogs being natural. So in this case, DHT. DHT is a natural hormone, converts from testosterone to DHT via 5-alpha reductase. Hair loss has a very complex web of mechanisms. You have fibrosis, you have calcification, you have lack of blood flow, you have lack of nutrients, you have inflammation, you have a lot of mechanisms. However, they all cascade downstream from DHT sensitivity in hair follicles. So, like I said, a lot of mechanisms. There's a lot of people claiming that it's blood flow or nutrient intake, scalp tension. There's a lot of theories because there's a lot of mechanisms, but they're all downstream from DHT. We have studies on this, and basically the vast majority of adult men, they would see zero net negatives from having nearly zero DHT. It's basically not essential for adults, but they would see really big net positives. For example, they would stop hair loss. They would have less acne because DHT increases sebaceous gland activity. They would have lower prostate cancer rates. So all these positives, zero negatives, just for nuking a natural hormone in your body. And that's not the only example. Let's talk about UV. Basically, UV damage from UV radiation, which people get via sun exposure, is responsible for up to 90% of visible skin age. I know that the carnivores, they think that it's seed oils causing inflammation. Again, this is because there's a very complex web of mechanisms, just like with DHT. It involves oxidation, it involves inflammation, it involves a bunch of things, but they're all downstream from UV radiation. A lot of mechanisms, one precursor. Here are a few examples of people that basically had part of their body exposed to the sun for decades, while the other one was not exposed to the sun. You can see that the one that was exposed, for example, in this case, it has a lot of UV damage. It has a lot of visible skin aging. Meanwhile, the other one looks like it didn't age at all. And this is another example. This guy, he always had denim jeans. Denim does not let the sun penetrate. And so his legs never saw the sun, basically. And his arms saw the sun all the time. And you can just tell the difference. His arms are full of visible skin aging, full of hyperpigmentation and visible skin aging. Meanwhile, his legs look like he's a child, like didn't age at all because he didn't see the light of the sun. And all else equal, assuming you get enough vitamin D and you get enough movement, you would see zero net negative side effects from having no UV radiation penetrating your skin. But you would see multiple net positive benefits. For example, lower skin aging, lower skin cancer rates, and other benefits. Lower hyperpigmentation, a lot of benefits with no downsides for reducing something that is natural. It is true that people that have higher sun exposure, they have lower all-cause mortality, but that's because they get more vitamin D and they get more exercise than people who avoid the sun, basically. So as long as you're moving, you're exercising, and you're getting enough vitamin D, UV radiation is not going to improve your life, and it's going to make your biomarkers worse. And also, I want to talk about LDL. Again, just like all the others, very complex web of mechanisms. It involves lack of blood flow, lack of nutrients, oxidation, inflammation, artery damage, a lot of mechanisms, but they have a trigger. And the trigger for all those mechanisms is high LDL. And high LDL is an independent risk factor for heart disease, meaning if everything else is equal, adding more LDL to your blood will increase the chance of you having a heart attack. If you understand this graph, you know how impressive it is. So we have the prospective cohort studies, which people say that it's COPE because it's association. There's upsides and downsides for each type of data here. Cohorts, you can have a way larger sample size. Meanwhile, with randomized controlled trials, the sample size is much lower, but you can isolate variables way more. And with Mendelian randomization studies, you pick people that have genetic conditions that have high LDL versus low LDL versus normal, and you compare them all. And I've seen carnivores use studies to try to prove that LDL doesn't cause heart disease, but they pick the anomaly studies. If you look at the vast majority of the evidence, especially of the high quality data, you basically see this. You see a causal link, not just association. And here's something crazy that perhaps you didn't know. Compared to people that have normal genetics and have normal LDL, there are people that have genetic conditions that basically the only difference is they have much higher LDL. There are multiple variants of these genetic conditions, but the result is much higher LDL in the blood. And basically, these people have from 10 times higher rates of heart disease to up to 50 times higher rates of heart disease. So if you have LDL of 200 to 400, which is what carnivores usually have, you're going to have 10 to 20 times higher rates of heart disease. And people with super high LDLs, for example, 400 to 1000, since birth, they basically get heart attacks in their childhood because such high LDL, the arteries clog right away. And yeah, there's this condition that is familial hypercholesterolemia, where people have really high LDL in their blood. And that's what the condition does as an outcome. It makes you have way higher blood LDL. And the outcome is they have 10 to 50 times higher rates of heart disease. And this is proven. We have Mendelian randomization studies. When you look at this, it's basically also studying those people, comparing them to people with normal LDL and comparing it to people with conditions that make them have really low LDL. And the people that have really low LDL because of genetics, they have basically almost no heart disease, while the people with very high LDL, they have really high heart disease rates. So it's cause and effect. It's not just association. And there's many ways to track it. And so like with the other things, an average adult man would see 0 negative side effects from having pretty much nearly 0 LDL. 0 LDL is impossible. It's never been observed. But we've seen people with LDLs as low as 10, which is extremely low, and we still didn't see negative side effects. So just like DHT, just like UV radiation, there doesn't really seem to be a number that is too low for most people to have side effects. Meanwhile, the net positives would be you would live longer, you would have higher blood flow. Arteries that are being clogged by lipids, they can cause Alzheimer's, they can cause erectile dysfunction. There's a lot of net negatives to having high LDL. And basically, if your LDL is low enough, for example, lower than 50, you're pretty much not going to have heart disease risk because it's not enough LDL to block the arteries. And just a reminder that heart disease is the biggest killer of humans, of both men and women, but especially men. So you should care about it. If you're going to die from anything, it's probably going to be heart disease. So I would prioritize it and don't fall for the misinformation. So as a recap, 3 things that are natural that I want as low as possible as an adult male, which is DHT, UV, and LDL. None of these things have benefits from a health standpoint. With DHT, you don't need it as an adult. With UV, you don't really need the UV radiation. The benefits come from the blue light or the circadian rhythm, and they come from the infrared light or the anti-inflammatory benefits. But the UV radiation has pretty much no benefit. It does make you tanner, and a tan does make you look better, and we do have studies showing it. But from a health standpoint, there's no benefits to UV radiation. And finally, LDL. I know a lot of people say that it's essential, you need as much as possible. That's not what the studies say. And your cells can create LDL on their own, even without serum LDL. And all the data shows that the lower your LDL, the lower the risk of heart disease without other negative side effects. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Join my school community if you want. Link in the pinned comment, where I talk about health and I talk about hair loss, skincare, basically everything that I care about and that I'm obsessed with. So yeah, join if you want. The price is $15. I'm going to increase it to $20. So if you want for $15 now, you can buy it now. And it's also a way to support the channel if you want to. So if you like my videos and you want me to upload more often, the only way you can support me is by joining my school community, and I would appreciate it. And we can talk there. I'm way more active there than I'm here when it comes to replying to messages. And yeah, that's pretty much it.